Las cosas que necesito en la vida ya están aquí. Las cosas que necesito en la vida ya están aquí. I am free, free as a bird now, with my feathered wings. I am free, free as a bird now, with my feathered wings.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Camino Cafe. So excited to have you here, and I think you're gonna really be excited when you find out that I'm speaking to Sandy Brown this morning, who is literally on the Camino as we speak. Well, he's in the hotel room, it looks like right now, but he's walking, and we thought this would be a great opportunity to give everyone an update on, you know, what traveling is like right now and what being on the Camino is like right now. So Sandy, welcome. Can you tell everybody where you are today?
Thanks, Leigh. Actually, I'm not on the Camino de Santiago. I'm on the Via Francigena right now, and I'm in my hotel room at Calais, France. And I've done about a week here so far and have about 2 months of walking left to do to get to my goal.
Oh my goodness, how many kilometers are you planning on doing?
It should be 1,100 kilometers. But I'm taking a little bit of a break when my wife comes to meet me from Seattle, and we'll go to Spain and then to Italy, and then I'll get back on the trail.
Oh my gosh, that sounds incredibly, romantic right now after we've kind of been on this lockdown, and to hear all the exciting things that you're getting ready to do just makes me so happy to see the world reopening and maybe things kind of normalizing a little bit. So happy for you. So I didn't realize that particular pilgrimage is not a part of the Camino. So it's not an official Camino, but another pilgrimage altogether.
Exactly. Yeah, it's its own thing, and it's basically been around for 1,000 years. It marks literally 1,000 years. It marks the route that Archbishop Sidgeric took from Canterbury when he became Archbishop to Rome, and he took notes on his way back, so we know exactly each town that he stayed at. And 20 years ago this year, that route was re-energized and people started walking it. So it's a really great alternative, or I think you could graduate from a Camino to the Via Francigena. It's a little bit harder, less infrastructure, more physical barriers, like you have to cross the Alps as well as the English Channel, which of the two is easier. And then the total distance from Canterbury to Rome is about 2,200 kilometers, which is almost 3 times the distance of the Camino Frances.
Wow. Now, you have been very busy during the pandemic. You did the California Mission trail, and you did that by bike, right? Did you also walk and cycle? I can't remember now, but I know I was following you during it.
Yeah, last year, 2020, I biked from Sonoma, which is in the Bay Area, to San Diego. Then this year, I decided to send my bike to San Diego. I started walking in Sonoma. So I walked Sonoma to San Diego. Then I rode my bike back. So I've actually done the whole thing twice by bike and once on foot.
Wow. Okay. So I know that a lot of pilgrims based in the United States are probably aware that you have written a couple of, I think it's like 4 or 5 guidebooks already. And as we were talking before we started our video this morning, you are actually planning on writing a guidebook for the California Mission. Is that correct?
True.
So maybe,
yeah.
So maybe just tell people, what was it like doing that particular cycling trip and walking trip?
That is a wonderful trip. And it's so different from the standpoint of you're not dealing with a foreign country. You're doing a Camino in your own country. And so you get used to the fact that, you've got Burger King and McDonald's and Starbucks all along the way. You don't have to do any translation at all. But then also about 200 of the 800 miles are right along the ocean.
Okay.
And to me, that really makes it fabulous. There are also 2 crossings of the coastal mountain range. So that adds a little bit of, exertion to it all. Then you go through San Francisco, Los Angeles, and you enter San Diego too. So there's an urban side of it. And the stewards of the mission trail have been working really hard to make sure that it's a good experience for walkers, so that they're not on pavement all the time, that it's safe and so on. And it's still a work in progress, but many people do it every year. And I hope many more will when it opens up with a professional quality guidebook.
Yeah, I think that will definitely help, because I think not that many people were really aware of it. And I think that you actually brought a lot of awareness to it over the past 2 years as we were all kind of, hunkering down in our own countries. So I'm curious, Sandy, what was it like flying internationally? For anyone that is considering, traveling to France or to Spain soon, what was your experience in traveling from the US internationally this time compared to what it used to be like?
Yeah, that's a really good question, because a lot of people are really nervous about that.
Yeah.
So flying from Seattle, I always go either nonstop to London, Amsterdam, Frankfurt, or Paris. The Paris flight isn't happening now. And London is hard to get in and out of because of COVID issues. So the only direct flights from the West, or at least from the Northwest, are to Amsterdam or Frankfurt. So I flew into Amsterdam.
Okay.
And I was armed with all kinds of paperwork.
Yeah.
And then landed on the ground, and there was nothing. There was no COVID screening whatsoever in Amsterdam airport in the Netherlands. And so I was very surprised about that. So walked right through the airport and said, that was weird. I thought it was going to be a lot harder.
Right.
Then I stayed a couple of days in Amsterdam, and it's very much like in the US, where outdoors, at least it was a couple of weeks ago, where outdoors, nobody really is wearing a mask. But when you go indoors, you put a mask on. In fact, all throughout Europe, that's really the requirement now. Indoors, put your mask on. So that was the case in Amsterdam. So I was a little bit nervous because I took the train from Amsterdam to Paris. And I thought, how will things be different at Paris?
Right.
So when the train came into the Gare Nord in Paris, everybody got off the train, and down the track was a screening being done by the police department of Paris.
Okay.
And so they stopped all the passengers and they asked for screening. And so I pulled out on my phone a copy of my vaccination certificate, the little, piece of white paper.
Yeah.
And the guard looked at that and he said, okay, you're good, and sent me on. So
Great.
That's the only screening that I've had since I've been here. And I've been in France now 10 days. So it was a big surprise to me. I expect that when I go back to Germany, I'll either have to show my certificate or I'll have to have a declaration. The declaration you sign says that you haven't been exposed to COVID to your knowledge. You haven't, you have not been near somebody that was exposed to COVID and so on. So I expect I'll have to do that.
So you actually just had a photo of that card, and that was accepted there by that police officer, right?
Exactly.
Wow.
Exactly.
And then nothing at Amsterdam. That is so surprising.
I was really surprised. Yeah. I anticipate that it would be harder in Spain, but for many of us from the West Coast, you don't fly directly into Madrid.
Right.
You have that first touchdown in an airport like Amsterdam.
Right. What about when you were flying out of Seattle? Were you having to show any additional information than what you normally would?
No, the only requirement was, as you get on or as you go into security, um, before you go into the metal detector, usually you show your passport.
Right.
Well, this time showed my passport, and they also did the little wand that checks your
Okay.
temperature, all there at the TSA screening. And then they did that again at the gate, but they didn't ask for any documentation at the
Really?
Seattle airport. Right.
Wow. I guess I know they have been talking about some type of QR code or some type of app eventually that we
Mhm.
might be using, but nothing like that has come into play for you
Yeah,
at all, right?
not yet, but
Okay.
I anticipate that it could happen. So the few things that I did to prepare were, first of all, I downloaded they call them attestations, where you attest to your own physical health, that you haven't been near somebody with COVID and so on. Then you sign that.
Mhm.
But also, there's actually a vaccination QR code that you can get from the CDC.
Okay.
And so I signed up for that. I got it. And I have that in case they ask for a code. And then I scanned my card, as well as carrying the original of my card with me in a safe place
Okay.
for if I need that.
Okay.
So, as I understand it, the harder thing right now is not leaving the US, it's getting back into the US, where
Okay.
you have to have within 72 hours a PCR test.
Okay.
So I bought a one-way ticket to Europe this time because I have my visa to stay in Italy,
Okay.
for the duration. But my wife is joining me for 3 weeks on her way back. That's what we'll have to do before we get to the airport, get a PCR COVID test for her. So she has that when she re-enters the US.
Okay. All right. That's really good information. Thank you, Sandy. Uh,
Yeah.
I wonder, what has also been the reception to having, do you feel that the folks in France and Amsterdam, did they seem to welcome you, or was there any kind of like, oh, Americans, please wait, don't
There,
come yet? What's it felt like? Has there been any difference?
it's no different. In
Okay.
fact, if anything, it's even more hospitable
Oh,
because they're anxious to get American tourists back.
yeah.
So there's been nothing but welcome every single step of the way. There's nobody that's ever said something like, you shouldn't be here. I think they're like us in the US. They're happy to have a return to normalcy, and
Yeah.
seeing a pilgrim in a backpack walking around is a reassuring thing. So I've walked about 6 stages now, and that is true in the cities as well as in the countryside.
That's great.
Nobody, the only thing that you'll get is if you walk inside of a building, there'll be a sign, and if you forget to put your mask on, they'll say, please put your mask on. Then
Okay.
you sit down for dinner and you take it off just like you do in the US.
Okay,
And then
great. That is,
if yeah, and then I should say, if you get up from your table and go to the bathroom, put your mask on,
okay.
and then come back to your table and take it off again. So they're very vigilant about mask wearing indoors.
Okay, that is so good to know. Do you find that a lot of people are wearing the medical grade, like that blue one that you have right there, or are you seeing all types of different masks?
Yeah, I'm seeing all types, but I have to say I'm seeing this kind more than the others.
Okay.
And in fact, I went to the pharmacy today and I bought 10 of these because I'm tired of cleaning my cloth mask.
Right.
And, if you use it for a few days, it doesn't really smell that great.
Yeah.
And these actually are a little bit easier to breathe in than the cloth mask that I brought anyway. So I'll, dispose of one every day and then buy another batch at the pharmacy soon. They weren't expensive. I think they were like $2.50 for 10.
Okay. Yeah, I was wondering that myself when I hopefully walk in October, that I was thinking about taking the blue ones because I think it would just be easier. And like you said, if you're wearing it all day walking, kind of get sweaty and you're going to want a clean one, right? So when you're out walking, you've walked this one before, yes? Or
I've walked the Francigena from Lausanne, Switzerland to Rome twice, but this is my first time walking from Canterbury to Switzerland. Okay.
Wow, I've driven. I have been on trips there driving, but I can't even imagine walking. How
amazing.
Difficult is it? Altitude wise and climbing wise, is it pretty challenging as you go through that part?
Between Canterbury and say Martigny, Switzerland, it's not really technical at all.
Okay.
But in fact, I should say it's never technical. The only thing is when you cross the Alps, because the Great St. Bernard Pass, where they bred St. Bernard dogs, the Great St. Bernard Pass is 8,400 feet in elevation.
Wow.
Which is like twice the elevation of our Snoqualmie Pass.
Right.
So imagine in the summertime, the path only clears about the 1st of August. You can walk up the road around the first week of June, but the actual hiking path isn't open until 1st of August, and then it's closed for snow again in late September. So Via Francigena walkers have to plan their entire route so they can walk over the pass in the summertime. Wow. And that's the key thing. And then the walk itself, I would say it's a gentle alpine walk.
Okay.
So you're watching your feet, you're walking on pathways that sometimes are narrow, on stone, even stone steps and narrow trails, but it's not acrobatic or technical, or you never have to climb anything. You're always walking.
Okay, great.
But it's very, very beautiful. It's extremely beautiful.
Oh, I bet. I've done some hiking near Luzerne and that whole Alpine region, but, had taken lifts or, what's the cable cars up to certain heights. And then it was just a nice, beautiful Alpine walk, kind of like what you're describing, small, narrow paths, but so beautiful. So what has been your experience so far on the number of pilgrims compared to, say, the last time that you walked? Are you feeling like you're kind of out there alone, or are you starting to see more pilgrims?
On the Francigena, I'm feeling pretty alone right now. And this is always a quiet stretch anyway of the Francigena. And so I can't really comment about how things are on the Camino de Santiago right now. Right. But I'm certainly reading reports, as I know you are, of people who are walking right now. If I guessed, I would say it's probably something like 10% of a normal year. But I should say, too, the reason my wife is joining me is because we are flying to Santiago to be in Santiago de Compostela on the 25th of July for the Holy Year festivities. Nice. So I did that back in 2010, and I loved it so much, I said, I've got to go again. So it's been 11 years, and I'm sure it will be a little less spectacular and fun than it was in 2010. But I'm glad to be there this time with my wife, too. So we have a hotel room right in downtown Old City, Santiago de Compostela, about 1 block from the cathedral. And we're just going to plan to not get much sleep for about 3 nights as the town celebrates.
Oh, I bet. Oh, how exciting, Sandy. That sounds thrilling. Now, has your wife also done a Camino before?
Yeah, she has. She and I walked together in 2018. Okay. And she loves the Camino. She loves the garden also. So she has to figure out her priorities. I can't stand gardening, so I'm walking as much as I can. She walks about 2 weeks away from home is her max. Then she
Okay.
wants to be back in her garden.
Understand. Well, we'll have to try to connect while you guys are in Santiago. It would be wonderful to kind of get an update on what's going on in Santiago during that time frame. So I'll check in
Okay,
with you.
you'll be there. You'll be there too. Oh,
No, I
see.
won't be there
Connect
yet,
via.
but I would have to do
I see
something
what you're
here.
saying.
Yeah. No,
Yeah,
I won't be
yeah.
there until probably October, but I'd love to do a
Okay.
check-in for everyone and kind of hear
Sure.
how things are going there. Now, you have
Absolutely.
walked, oh my gosh, how many Caminos have you completed?
I keep a tally, and this is number 19 for me.
19.
So yeah, it's a
Wow.
little embarrassing to say
I'm
that.
proud of that.
I should get a life probably beyond Caminos. I've done the Frances 4 times, and the Del Norte and San Brace, and of course to Muxia and Finisterre. And my other Caminos have been in Italy and France and Switzerland.
Wow. So Sandy, what started this whole thing? Because I was just kind of researching a little bit about you before our call. Where did this seed get planted? And I mean, 18, that's amazing. I so admire that. So how did it all start?
Well, what happened to me was about 1992, I read The Pilgrimage by Paulo Coelho.
Oh, yeah.
And it's so interesting that some people hate that book because they expect a Camino travelogue, and that's not what it is.
No.
It's a kind of magical spiritual book that's set on the Camino. So if they're looking for like, what are you going to pack or how hard was it? That's not what that book is about. But I loved the book, and I loved the hint of the settings in Spain. And my mother's family is from Mexico. We haven't traced our roots to Spain yet. We haven't made that link, but I've felt that Spain has an attachment in terms of my family. So in 1992, I read it for the first time, and it took me 16 years before I had the time to actually do it myself.
Wow.
So I did it, and almost every year since then, I've felt called to go back and do it, to do something like that. It's just become part of my life.
Yeah, I mean, you have really become an expert just on, I guess, the art of pilgrimage, I would say. Because you're doing them all over, even in the US. So did you first read Paulo's book because of did you read that as part of your education, or was it just something you just happened to pick up?
What happened, I think, was that I read The Alchemist first. That's his most famous book. And then I said, wow, I love this so much, I got to read his other stuff. So probably in the space of a couple months, I read a half dozen of his books, and The Pilgrimage was one of those. So I wouldn't call myself an expert, but I've certainly chalked up the miles. I think in miles, I'm at about 8,000 now, and in kilometers, something like 12 or 13. And that includes both biking and walking.
Sure. So Sandy, what is it about, I find this fascinating when I'm interviewing other pilgrims, that I believe very strongly that there is a seed that is planted somewhere, right? And once that seed is planted, man, we're going. It's going to happen at some point. But I'm always fascinated about, and I wonder what your opinion is on that, but also what calls us to go back? Because almost every single pilgrim that I have interviewed or have met along the path really think about, I'm going back, and they do.
Yeah.
And people walk as many as they seem to be able to. So what do you think it is that pulls us back?
Well, I should ask you that question as well. I'm sure you have an answer. For me, it's two things. Number one is there is something that's deeply attractive about the silence that comes in walking a pilgrimage.
Yeah.
So I caught this the other day. The Via Francigena in France is very green. and it's seldom in cities at all. And
Okay.
so I'm walking along, realizing that I'm in wheat fields, vineyards, forests, and the sounds I'm listening to are the sounds of the bird song, sound of the wind,
Mm.
and the quiet is just so beautiful to feel. And then I feel myself calming down. I see a new thing, and then I begin to experience um, this sort of happiness, this kind of ecstasy. Then I come to a town and I hear a car, and the car brings back the world, and it sounds almost violent in the clatter that it makes to get down the road. And so human culture and human society for all but the last 100 years or so have been surrounded by that kind of silence and quiet. I think we yearn for that. And it's really not just the silence, but it's a connection with nature. It's also being outdoors all day long. Uh, and it's the actual thrill of your body walking, having exercise, things like the sun. So all of that, the intrinsic aspect of the walk itself. Then the second thing, especially on the Camino, is the people that you come to meet. It's like with me just now, I was with a group called Road to Rome. That's a relay
Yes.
from Canterbury through Rome to the tip of the boot of Italy.
Okay.
And there was a blogger, a social media person, a photographer, videographer, the president of the Francigena Association, an intern, and me.
Wow.
And we're eating breakfast together every day. We're on the road together all the time. We have dinner together at night. And pretty soon, that level of interaction just becomes very precious.
Yeah.
And we don't have that level of interaction outside of whatever family or roommates and so on we live in back home.
Yeah.
It's a discovery of new people and making new friends and really being immersed in a new community. So those things are so different from how we experience our lives back home that once we've done it, we often yearn to go back and experience that same thing again.
So well said. I couldn't agree more. And when you posted, I think this week you had a post about saying goodbye to that group. And I
Yeah,
literally could feel that in my heart because I remember what it's like to say goodbye to somebody that you've been
yeah,
walking with and how deep
yeah,
that connection has become, if only for a few days. Are
yeah,
you
yeah,
doing a
exactly.
project with them, or was this just, it just kind of happened that you met this group, or?
No, I mean, we are all working together in a way.
Okay.
So I'm writing a guidebook on the Via Francigena, and the primary sponsor of my work is the European Association of Via Francigena.
Okay.
So they're partly underwriting the cost of this 3-volume series that I'm writing.
Nice.
So when I heard that they were doing this relay and they were open to people joining them, I said, well, I'm going to find a few days so that I can come and join you. Then I met them. They're on bicycles right now because this is a fairly flat area in France. And so I rented a bike. And the first day I thought, okay, they're going to bike ahead from Laon to Reims. It's actually 3 stages. And I said, I'm going to take my time and I'll just be behind them and I'll be doing my typical thing of researching the walk and writing the walking directions. I started at 8 in the morning and I finished at 8:30 at night, and I wasn't quite done yet. So I had to go
Wow.
back the next day. So after that experience, I just rode with them for a few days so that I could enjoy what they're doing. And what they're doing is meeting with village and town and city leaders along the way to tell them how important the Francigena is, to check in with them about how it's going, to celebrate this walk. And it's really fun to see what they're doing. The Francigena, its new manifestation is only 20 years old compared to the Camino, which now is about 40 years old.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of work to really continue to build the infrastructure, and that's part of what they're doing. And I was really happy to join in for a little bit.
Oh, it sounds so fun. I wonder,
Yeah.
You being a guidebook writer, I wonder if you have any tips for people who might be watching us today on what tips would you have? That everybody's trying to journal about what's happening. Everybody, I think almost every pilgrim I've ever met feels like they have a book inside of them, once they complete their pilgrimage, right? Do you have tips on journal keeping or note taking? Like, I can't even imagine how you go in, like you're walking and you're enjoying the nature, but you're also having to pay attention to what's open, different signs. So how do you do that?
Well, the way I do it as a guidebook writer, literally, is I have my phone in my hand. It's recording my GPS track. I start an email at the start of every day, and then I click on the little microphone button so that as I talk, the internet is translating that into the printed word. Then at the end of the day, I send myself an email. But I've been talking into my phone all day. I do it in an email because the draft is saved constantly by Gmail. So if something happens, I don't lose that. But for somebody who's not writing a guidebook, which is the vast majority of people, what I like best is either journaling or blogging. So, another alternative, it's kind of blogging light, is to do something like a Facebook post that shares the details of what happened to you. That's for public consumption. What a journal is for your own private consumption. And I think that's really the best way to be absorbing what's going on. And as soon as we put something into words, that event or that feeling becomes more concrete than it was before. So that's the value of journaling. And it's not that hard to take along a pad of paper and a pencil. And when you get in to your albergue and you've finished washing your clothes and hung them up, and before you go to dinner, to me, that's the perfect time to journal about your day. Then it's not what you try to do. It's not just, this is what happened to me, although that's helpful. It's also, what was I feeling along the way? What was I experiencing? What kinds of ways do I feel I'm changing or growing or learning or even angry or frustrated, whatever the feelings are? And to put those into words, to me, is really maximizing the experience. A lot of people, because they get involved with a group of folks, they neglect that after a while. But I think it's good to separate yourself from your friends for just a little bit and do that work of journaling.
Yeah.
So I think that's the way to really get the most out of it and experience it in a growing kind of way.
Yeah, I like that very much, how you're talking about, that journal needs to be, or it would be very helpful if it's more than just, what happened that day, as far as, had this for breakfast, did this walk, that, if you're really talking about your feelings and the experiences that came up and, maybe memories that came to mind and you're processing through that. So that's a very good tip. I wonder, Sandy, if you have, I'm sure you have rituals when it comes to, waking up, getting dressed, whatever you're doing with that. But do you have any rituals as far as things that maybe put you in a mindfulness state before you begin your walk? Do you set like a daily intention, or are there certain things that you do as you begin your walk or throughout your walk each day when you're on a stage that maybe would help others to get into that state that you talked about, where you're just really in that oneness with nature and finding that spontaneous happiness and whatnot.
Yeah, I have to say that I don't do that intentionally anymore, because it for me it comes pretty naturally now. So what I'm working on now is less about how to be intentional than how to take care of myself better. So all the wonderful baptism into nature is great, but I sometimes have sadly walked all day and forgotten to eat or drink very much. And that's not a good thing. So I'm really working on balancing my work, my self-care, and my the spiritual aspect. And right now, of all of those, the spiritual piece is the easiest and most fun.
Oh, I love what you're saying. I mean, I think that, I think self-care obviously is, very much out. That's something that we're all talking about. But I think, it is something that we kind of neglect. And, it blisters and things like that, you can't quite ignore, because eventually that barks loudly enough that you have to. But it's the other self-care, I think, like you're talking about, the eating, the doing the things to keep your body in good shape so that you can finish this walk. So give us, maybe if you would, if it's not too personal to ask, but like, what kinds of self-care things have you been doing over the last couple of days? Like, how have you been making sure that Sandy is being taken care of?
Yeah, well, it's a funny thing. I'm looking for it right now, but
okay,
my skin turns brown very fast. And so I've done 1,600 miles in the sun already this year. So I don't really need to wear sunscreen. To avoid getting a sunburn. But my skin wants sunscreen because it dries out. My face gets wrinkled and tired looking.
yeah.
And so a self-care piece for me is, after all these years, to not be so proud that I don't get sunburned, but instead to take care of myself and put on the darn sunscreen. So I use an SPF 30. I'm gradually getting into it, and it really makes my skin feel better. But, still, you can see, I don't know if you can see that.
Yes.
That's what my skin would be like if I wasn't in the sun so much. So that's an example. Another example would be water. So now I use a 1 liter Nalgene bottle from REI. I put that in my pack, and I carry a 500 milliliter, which is half a liter bottle. And this is in the pocket of my pack. So I always have a liter and a half with me. And as I go through the day, especially later in the day, I'm conscious of making sure that I stop and drink. So my goal is to finish the liter and a half by the end of the day, if it's a normal day, but to fill it along the way and do more than a liter and a half if it's a hot day. So that's another example. I guess another example on the self-care side is in France, just like in Spain, it's hard to get vegetables. Yes. So a common lunch is a demi baguette with some sort of meat inside, and the crudités, they call them, which are like lettuce and tomatoes.
Yes.
But the only real time that you have to get vegetables is at dinner, and you have to sort of diving into a plate of French fries and stuff, which the French meals are way better than in Spain, but not as good as Italy. Yeah. Instead of diving into French fries, to be certain every day you're eating vegetables and salads and so on. So it's fine. I mean, I guess basically I'm learning how to get beyond my guyhood, which is I'm invincible, and getting into the notion that no, actually I've got to take care of myself along the way. It's probably, it
Yes.
sounds very silly for an average person, but I'm beyond my super pilgrim phase, and I'm maybe with age I'm getting to okay, let's be more conscious of taking care of yourself stage.
Sadie, I can't tell you how happy I am that you're bringing this topic up. Because I interviewed someone recently, Stephen Drew, who wrote a book called Into the Thin about his pilgrimage on the Camino. And, in part of the book, he's talking about really how hard we are on ourselves, and that we don't have to be so hard on ourselves. We can actually be more gentle to ourselves. And
Right.
your example of just the moisturizer and the sunscreen, it's almost, and I think that is such a, I don't know, maybe a Western thing, but kind of in our culture, I think where, well, we're going to wear sunscreen if it's going to prevent getting burned, but we won't put on the moisturizer to just do the nice thing for our body and allow our skin to feel good and, to work the best. And I just find it so interesting. And I think this is a really good tip for other pilgrims to be hearing, is that, you've walked over 18 pilgrimages and you're learning this lesson that it's okay to slow down and take care of yourself. And, even your example with the water and doing it in a way that's going to support you in drinking more water and doing things that are more kind for yourself.
Yeah.
I think that's so important for people to hear, because it's okay. This walk doesn't have to be a punishment.
That's right. Exactly.
Right? And
sure.
It's okay. And, one of my next questions was going to be, what's your luxury item? Like, what's the one thing you always take? It sounds like maybe moisturizer now, but we're still going to call it sunscreen, because sunscreen's tougher. But is there a luxury item that you're like, people would be surprised that after 18 pilgrimages, you always have in your backpack?
I don't think so. Here's the thing for a guidebook writer. So for instance, I have to have a pretty good sized camera.
Yeah.
Now, I'm also carrying an iPad with me so I can type. So between those two things, that's probably 5 or 6 pounds right there.
Yeah.
So I was counting my clothes the other day, and I have a pair of long pants and a pair of shorts, but my shorts got dirty and they take longer to dry. So I decided to go out and buy another pair of shorts. Okay. Then I looked at my shirts. I bought 2 shirts, and now I have 5 shirts. So I'm actually going to get rid of one of my shirts. I'll leave it here. And this shirt I'm trying on for the first time today to see if I like it. But I'll show you something. So with the Road to Rome people, I was in a little town, and they gave us gift bags. And so this gift bag has a ruler and 2 pencils and an eraser and a pencil sharpener. And then also they have this cute little thing they gave us with colored pencils.
So cute.
And so right now I'm hanging on to those because I can't figure out what to do with them. I don't feel like I want to give them up, but I also know I shouldn't be carrying these because, it's probably like 3 ounces or something, but it's 3 ounces I really don't need. So I'm having a hard time letting those go.
Oh, I would too, right? Because it's a gift, right?
Yeah.
And there's kind of some sentimental feeling about the stuff. Maybe you can do a nice sketch in your journal or something, like using all of it and then feeling like you've used it and then gift it to somebody. I don't know.
I might just leave it in my hotel room, and maybe whoever cleans here will find a use for it.
Yeah, maybe they'll have kids, and the kids would adore that. I mean, it's super cute.
Yeah.
For sure. Well, Sandy, I promised that, we wouldn't do a really long call because I know that you're on pilgrimage and you've probably got a lot of writing to do. And I'm hoping that if we end short, maybe you'll talk to us again when you are in Spain and we can get another update on how things are going then. But I guess we'll just end the call with, if you could just offer folks who maybe are on the fence about going for the first time, they haven't really ever gone on a pilgrimage. We've had obviously a tough year and a half. What would you say to encourage them that, it's okay, give it a try? What would you say?
Well, the first thing I would say is the vaccination is important. If you have not been vaccinated, don't plan to come to Europe. And this is not the time because the virus is still spreading in all of the countries, and you don't want to bring it with you or get it here and bring it home.
Yeah.
And if you're averse to wearing a mask indoors, don't come. This is not the time for it. If you are yearning for adventure and love the Camino and can put up with just a few additional details like wearing a mask indoors and having an extra check, COVID check when you get off the train and so on. If you can endure that, the Camino is as beautiful as ever. And it's a special year. And it's special because there are fewer people here, there are fewer crowds, and the scenery and the experience is every bit as good. The churches are open, the museums are open. There's still Menú del Pellegrino, and there's still laughter that comes from other people that are ready to share the adventure. So with those considerations, come and you'll have a great time.
Oh, wow. So well said, Sandy. Oh my goodness. Thank you. Thank you for taking time out tonight to talk with the Camino Cafe and to kind of give us some tips and a glimpse into what it's like traveling right now. And I wish you the best as you continue this walk. And thank you so much. I hope we get to talk again very soon. So thank you for being here. Thank you everyone for listening and for checking out this episode, whether you're on our podcast or you are watching on YouTube. And I just encourage everyone, I will have links to Sandy's website as well as his books. And so be sure to check those out. And for everyone who wants to do the California Mission Trail, he's going to have some new books coming out. And so we'll make sure that we share those once those are published. So thank you, Sandy. Thank you, everyone, for being a part of this great big Camino family. I feel blessed to be a part of it and so enjoy getting to know other pilgrims. And I encourage everyone to listen to Sandy's advice and be ready to go, head out there. So goodbye for now, everyone. We'll see you on our next episode.
Las cosas que necesito en la vida ya están aquí. Las cosas que necesito en la vida ya están aquí. I am free, free as a bird now, with my feathered wings. I am free, free as a bird now, with my feathered wings.